In this interview, I talked to Madeline Taylor from Content Refined. Content Refined is a full-service content agency. And Content Refined and I worked together on a project where we took 10 different posts from one of my sites and they improved the content. The results were pretty amazing. So in 4 weeks, the traffic went up to those specific posts by about 13% in 4 weeks. So all we did was update the content and then the traffic went up very quickly. Additionally, when I looked at the traffic from like this year, 2019 compared to 2018, the traffic was up by about 20%. So I know all of that isn't, specifically related to the Content Refined project and case study that we worked on. However, it does remove the seasonality when you compare like 1 month this year to 1 month last year. So sometimes things go up and down depending on like the time of year and your niche and all that stuff. So that's why I compared to 2018 as well. So in this interview, we talked to Maddie, get to know her a little bit. Then we talk about this specific case study that we did. It's important for me to mention that I am an affiliate for Content Refined. So if you purchase through my link, then I get a little bit of a commission. However, you'll see the results are awesome. So I recommend you check it out. And Maddie and I also talk about how to do the same type of project without using their service if you want to try it on your own. So let's get to the interview now. Hey, what's going on? It's Doug Cunnington here, and I'm sitting with Maddie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing really good. And you're from Content Refined, but for the folks that don't know you, can you give us a little intro about what you do there and maybe a little tiny bit about Content Refined?
Yeah, sounds great. So my name is Maddie, and I am the CEO and co-founder of Content Refined, which is a small content marketing agency that's based up in Canada. And so what we do is we help people, small business owners, or anybody who even has like a niche website. We help them with their content strategy, and we help them create really great, high quality content that will hopefully drive more traffic to their site.
Awesome, very cool. And how did you get involved with Content Refined?
Well, it was kind of an accident. So basically, I moved to a really small town called Collingwood, Ontario. I moved for love, and I had left a really great job in Toronto. And so I was sort of networking up here and meeting a bunch of new folks. And I came across this guy named John, who I think you know. Mm-hmm. And John basically had also just left his big engineering job and moved back to this small town and was sort of launching this online business world of his and really following that career path for himself. And so he was looking for help, and I was originally hired on actually to help him with his portfolio of money sites. Mm-hmm. And so what he had intended for my job to be was basically to figure out a really good marketing strategy for his own portfolio of money sites to really get the process going for the content creation piece. And so we did like a lot of research and a lot of sort of procedure building and built out this really awesome little robust process of consistent content creation. And once that was done, we kind of launched it as a service. And so that's how Content Refined was born.
Gotcha. And that is, excuse me, I don't know what happened there, but that is Authority Website Income.
It is.
So John Haver from Authority Website Income. So I'll put a link to that in case people aren't familiar. But when I got started online in 2013, John was at least a couple years ahead of me. So I contacted him, and we've had a good relationship over the years. So Content Refined is an offshoot because you guys were doing so good with you had extra bandwidth and you were like, well, people need this service, right?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I had kind of worked myself out of a job at that point because the content was happening and the creation process was so automated that I kind of had this extra time, and I really, yeah, had worked myself out of a job. So we are like, hey, let's wrap this up and put a little bow on it and call it Content Refined and launch it to people who need this service.
Cool. And how long ago was that when you launched Content Refined?
That's coming up to 3 years. So this fall will be 3 years.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
And what was your background, like your previous job and all that stuff?
Yeah, prior to that, I had been working in Toronto at a medical technology startup. So a little bit different.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, a little more technical, but yeah, it was basically like a software development agency, and we created some medical platforms for doctors.
Gotcha. And then what did you do there?
I was a project manager actually. So in
Okay.
terms of my skill set from there to come and proceduralize the crap out of something was something was
Right.
something that I was pretty used to, and the documentation piece was something that I was very strong at. So it was a good fit. Just a bit of a shift of gears. Like I didn't know anything about marketing or content or SEO really before that. So it was brand new to me, and so it's been a lot of work, but a lot of fun.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's pretty cool. I have a similar background, and I think the thing you mentioned is like being able to like look at a process and then document it and then have other people do it. Like project
Yeah,
managers have to do it all the time, but like if you haven't done it before, it's really hard because like people will write down
definitely.
what they think and then give it to the team or whatever, and then the team has questions, and then they want to blame the team, but it's really you didn't document it well.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
interesting.
definitely. I see that you got a PMP designation here
Hmm.
on your Skype. So I was wondering what that was all about.
Yep. So I got my PMP. Did you get yours back in the day? Or?
I never actually officially got the designation, but I would consider myself a project manager.
Sure. It's just jumping through a lot of hoops and then paying a lot of money.
A lot of money. Yeah,
So, but then once you get it, you just keep it active. So I've done
exactly.
that. So, okay.
Yeah.
The reason why we're here today is we're talking about content upgrades, which shouldn't be confused with the email marketing thing of content upgrades. We're talking about taking content and improving it to basically get more traffic.
Hmm.
So, can you tell me about how you guys got this idea for, I guess now it's a product, but it's a
Yeah.
strategy. And we're going to talk about step by step how to do it. So, take me through that a little.
Yeah, sure. So I guess it started. It wasn't actually our idea. It came to us from clients wanting this service. So we were, in the thick of really understanding like driving factors and ranking factors for brand new content, but we weren't really focused on existing content. And it wasn't until we had like a handful of clients come to us and say, hey, like I've already targeted this keyword. I've got like a 3,000 word blog post on this topic. I don't want to rewrite the whole thing. Like I don't want to have a brand new piece of content about a keyword that I'm already targeting that seems like a bad ROI. Can we figure out how to sort of like refresh this existing content to make it useful again? And so that's sort of where we got the idea. And then with the help of, like we always do, we test things out. And with the help of different tools, we figured out a really good system on how we could predictably improve certain pieces of content so that they would perform well on search engines. And so once we got that process sort of nailed down, that's when we launched it as a standalone service. And it's been very popular. And what's interesting about it is that the results show immediately because these pieces of content are already indexed and they're already ranking. So it just really gives them a bump, which has been interesting to see and document.
Yes. And I know I've done this strategy in the past, but without as much like a rigorous process. So I knew that it was going to work, and I was going to say we can mention that we're working together some, right?
Yeah.
So I have a website, and Content Refined worked with a few of the posts, about 10 posts over there. And I will be sharing this in like the show notes and stuff like that so people can check it out. There will be an accompanying blog post as well. But in general, traffic for the 10 posts over the course of like 4 weeks or so went up by almost 13%, so 12.83%. And the individual posts, some of them only went up by 10%. Some of them went down just a little bit, which could be seasonal or something else. But a few of the posts went up by like 100 and some odd percent, like multiple times the amount of traffic that they were getting before. So again, this was just in 4 weeks, traffic went up by about 13% on these 10 posts. So it definitely works. And like you said, the cool part is Google already likes the post. So it's just a matter of like optimizing them in the right way.
Right. And it's not about, it's not about basically waiting for something to become indexed and then waiting for things to, get slow traffic. It's an immediate bump and we see it right away, which is cool.
Yeah. And it's like if you're doing on-page, on-site work, typically you'll have the changes happen faster. The impact happens faster versus, if you're building links, it could take a little while for those to come into play. Or like you said, if it's a brand new post, then you have to wait a little while for things to happen. So we will take you through the process. And Maddie, I think this is where I'm going to not know as much about what you guys do. So can we just go like step by step on how you do this?
Yeah, for sure. So I guess we'll start with like the initial phone call. So I'll jump on a call with a prospective client who wants this service, and we'll sort of go through their site, their goals. We'll scrape the site with for some data and analytics to sort of understand where their strong suits are and where they could improve. So we'll do this thing called like a content audit. I think we did it for your site, right?
Yes.
Where we'll pull some data from the site and then understand exactly like what posts are ranking for what, and then what articles are not performing as well as they should be based on the keyword that they're targeting and based on the metrics associated with that keyword. So we generally like to go for keywords that have a pretty high search volume, but a lower competition. So if we see that there's a keyword like that that is not ranking very well for a post, then we know that that's probably a good place to start for an upgrade. And so then we'll take a deeper dive into that post and see where else we can optimize it to get it to rank for related key terms. And so that's when a tool. So sorry, backtracking. We will present the sort of client audit, present a set of recommendations for posts that we should upgrade, and then the client will say yay or nay. In your case, you said yay for about 10 of them. Mm-hmm. And then we will start with the actual upgrade. So the upgrade is essentially we'll use this tool called Market Muse. I think we've spoken about it a few times before. Mm-hmm. And we'll plug the existing article into Market Muse. We'll plug in the targeted keyword as well as the targeted article title. And then we'll have the article analyzed through this tool. This tool is really interesting because it basically scrapes the web for any other related article to that topic, and will give you recommendations on how to improve your article so that it will hopefully beat out the competition.
Right.
And so what it will do is it will spit out a list of keyword variants that you should be sprinkling through your text. And it will give you a set of like content gaps that your writer should write about. And so those are really great for like additional little pieces of content to fit into your existing article, because this tool is identifying the like subjects that you have not touched on, that will make your article better and that will make Google recognize it as a piece of content that is in depth and that is well researched and that is useful to the readers. So once we understand sort of all those content gaps, different keyword variants, we will compile that into a bit of a content brief. And then we will we'll go through the existing content and we will come up with like a list of questions that we think the post should aim to answer. And so we'll add those questions into the brief and then we'll send that off to the writer. Okay. So once the writer gets that brief, they'll go through the post to understand sort of like the tone and like the what's already been sort of covered. And then they will work on sort of creating additional content that fits really, really well and congruently with the post. And then once that's done, they'll send it off to us. We'll plug it through MarketMuse to make sure that it is that the content score has improved, and that it, based on MarketMuse, should predictably rank on a search engine better than it did before, and then we will publish it for you.
Got it. Okay. Yeah. And that was very good. Like a good explanation in a concise way. So that was amazing, Maddie.
Oh, good. I'm glad. Was it a little long-winded?
No, it's good. You got to take a breath. But
I know. Sorry.
No, it's all good. But I'm going to go back and ask, like, there were certain pieces that I know some people were going to wonder about. So back at step one, you mentioned like a, quote, high search volume. Can you give like an example or some ranges where it's worthwhile to look to do this?
Yeah, totally. I think that varies from like niche to niche. But do you say niche or niche?
I'm an American, clumsy
so you
American.
Say niche.
Yep, I sure do. Yep, and I just it's in my URL, it's my domain name, so I'm just leaning into it. So
niche. Okay.
Yeah, but feel free.
So I'm Canadian, so I say niche.
That's fine. You can do that. Yeah.
I guess it's the French way.
It's correct. I think you're correct. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, Canadians mostly are correct. So. No, but all joking aside, depends on what niche you're in. And so rule of thumb, I would say anything over 1,000. But if it's in sort of a less competitive niche, I would do anything over 500.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I think one... I guess maybe a guideline that people could use, although you could tell me I'm wrong, is if you just look at the keywords that you're ranking for and you see like most of them are, high, then you probably have a higher range that you need to aim for. And if most of yours are pretty low, I mean, maybe I know a lot of people use the keyword golden ratio that are watching this or they're familiar with it anyway. And maybe a lot of their keywords are in the, 300 range. So in that case, maybe you aim in the 300 to 500 range and you're just kind of looking at a smaller window. So is that an okay way to look at it?
Absolutely. Yeah. And then I think you also, if we're going to talk about search volume, we should talk about competition score as well. And basically anything that it has like a higher percentage in the competition, it's going to be harder to rank for. So we look for anything sort of under 30%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what tool are you using for that competition difficulty metric?
So, yeah, we use a number of different tools, but right now our favorites are Ahrefs, as well as SE Cockpit. It's a Swiss marketing apps platform. And although it's kind of slow, it does spit out really good data.
Okay. And yeah. I haven't used that one, but I've heard of it. Ahrefs is really good. I use SEMrush as well. And I've been playing with KW Finder, which seems to have a pretty good metric as well. So
yeah. Actually, we did you ever take a look at the massive data analysis study that we did on different tools?
I saw that it was out there and then I
Yeah.
perused it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So that was a couple years ago now. So I'd be interested to sort of revisit that and see what tools, what other tools, and if there are any new tools out there that we haven't discovered yet to see sort of what their predictability of ranking is. So I'd be interested to revisit this conversation in like August if we decide to revisit that.
Yeah, I think, a
Yeah.
refresh of that article would be interesting. But yeah, it's really hard. I mean, I think some of the tools, like I remember Longtail Pro had like their competition, what was it? Competitiveness metric, the KC stat, which was really good in the beginning, but then over time it became like less accurate and like
Yeah.
just not very useful. And I don't know if they've refreshed it or anything like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
and moving on, speaking of tools, you mentioned Market Muse, and it, for people that don't know, it's a very sophisticated, like data-driven, like content analysis tool. It's very expensive though, so really, you could only afford it if you're like a content agency, like Content Refined, or if you have like a media company, basically. So,
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit more about like what Market Muse can do? I know you mentioned it analyzes the competition, it analyzes content related to the terms, but what kind of like other information? I know you mentioned some of it, but I kind of want to just dive a little deeper for the people that never use Market Muse.
Yeah, for sure. So Market Muse actually it's growing and it has a bunch of added functionalities that we need to sort of explore since we haven't really done that yet. But for the purpose of Content Refined, we use it extensively for content planning and mapping, and for content analyzing. So we use it to edit every single piece of content that we deliver to our clients, whether it's new or whether it's upgraded content. And so what it's great for is that it gives you like different keyword variants that you should be using, and it will like recommend where you should even place them. Like it's a really sophisticated tool, and we've done a ton of studies on it that basically say that the extensive use of Market Muse leads to content that does perform better. And so I think that it's likely because of the fact that it helps you with your content briefing, with like suggestions of different subtopics, suggestions of keyword variants, suggestions of like questions that you should be aiming to answer throughout your any given text, and then just like the being able to compare it to any other subject on the internet, or sorry, with any other blog article on that subject on the internet is a really useful functionality to have. So I think it's a great tool. I think that it's a very expensive tool.
Yeah, it's very expensive. Yeah,
it's really expensive. But I do think that it gives us that competitive advantage on the market.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I've used a couple other tools, and they give you a piece of the information, but it doesn't do the keyword variants as well. And I mean, I understand why it's so expensive. I mean, they're pulling so much data and then they're analyzing it and parsing it and then reorganizing it and like extracting what you care about, all those keyword variants. So, I mean, we could talk about it conceptually and see how it works, but I imagine, it's expensive to pay for the servers to run all that stuff in the background, which is why it's so expensive, and the huge value that it brings. I mean, it's like a no-brainer for Content Refined to use it. And I imagine like big media companies that just do tons of content, that makes sense too.
Yeah.
So it's a great tool, and so there are some cheaper tools that can kind of do some stuff.
Like cognitive SEO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know of any others?
Cognitive SEO is sort of our if Market Muse's servers are down or something, we'll use Cognitive SEO. We think it's a great tool. We're actually just finishing up a data analysis study with them to see whether we should be working with them more often.
Gotcha. And I know there's Page Optimizer Pro, which I'm an affiliate for, so everyone be aware of that. But it provides really good information as well, but it's not quite as like user friendly, I guess.
Okay.
And I haven't played with it as much, so everyone just remember that caveat. So
Be aware. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, so moving on, you do the analysis about how much content is added, because Content Refine they do everything, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So about how much content is added? Do you add images? Like, what's the extent of additional content?
Yeah. So again, it kind of depends on like the suggestion from Market Muse, but usually we'll end up adding anywhere between sort of 500 and 1,000 words of content to fill up those content gaps. And then of course we'll add in new images, we'll place new links, and that's basically it. Oh, and we'll update say it's a blog from like 2016, and it references 2016 throughout the text a lot. We'll update that to like 2019, and make sure that it's like current and that the stats, if you have like a blog post that has a bunch of statistics, just to make sure that they're updated and current.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense. Any other like observations on the process, or if someone was trying to do it on their own, any suggestions?
That's pretty much it. I would suggest cleaning it, like if it's say, so a lot of the time when we perform this service, it's because somebody's just bought a brand new site. So they've just bought all of this content that they don't really know anything about, and some of it's not performing well, and then we'll go through it and we'll be like, okay, this is written terribly. Like, this is something that we need to completely rewrite. Like, this was not a native English speaker who wrote this. Let's clean it up. So we will also edit it extensively to make sure that it's high quality and written correctly, because that matters.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a great point. So I can imagine people buying sites, and then they obviously are trying to get like an ROI, and like if they can go and improve, I don't know, let's say they bought a site with 100 posts and they get like 20 of them done running the 80/20, right? Like they can make they can make a huge difference on
huge difference. Yeah.
On the traffic, on the earnings within potentially just a month or something like that. So amazing. And do you guys have some case studies on this?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, we have lots of case studies on this that I can share in the show notes if you'd like.
Yep. So that's perfect. I'll include those, and I suspect maybe some of my information will be in there at some point. I'm not sure, but
yeah.
Cool. So one of the other things that you guys have over at Content Refined is templates to do some stuff. And you mentioned that maybe the audience can get a hold of those templates. How can they do it?
Yeah. So I've got a podcast special page that essentially allows anybody listening to this who wants to check it out, allows them to go in and download a bunch of different templates that will allow them to write different styles of different styles of articles using the Content Refined templates. And so those are templates that we use internally, that we send to all of our writing team to make sure that they're all sort of writing in the same style and the same format. So it's super helpful if you're starting out and you're doing some of your own posts, or if you've got like a writer in-house and you'd like to sort of proceduralize things a little bit better, then you can use those, and that should help with the content creation side of things.
Perfect. Thanks a lot for that. And everyone, I'll put links in the description and all that, so if you're driving in your car, you don't have to figure out how to write it down. So,
Yeah.
all right. Well, thanks a lot, Maddie. Is there anything else before we head out?
I don't think so. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't think so. I think this is
Cool.
great.
Well, everybody check out Content Refined. And like I said, I'll put links and stuff for all the things that we talked about. So thanks again, Maddie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again to Content Refined and Maddie for taking the time to chat with me. I think it's also important to note that I paid for the content. I paid for the service from Content Refined. They didn't like give it to me so that I would promote it. I wanted to test out the actual service and see what would happen. So it is important for me to actually be a paying customer and bring my, maybe slightly biased, but not too biased opinion. I mean, the point is, in 4 weeks, I got traffic to go up with very little action on my own. So it worked out great for me. I highly recommend you check out Content Refined, especially if you have content that can be improved. What they can do for you is have a look, do sort of a mini audit of your existing content, and then let you know where your best opportunities are. If you don't have content that needs to be improved yet, well, you can have Content Refined write your content for you, and it's a whole full service kind of situation. So you can give them the keywords or generally what you're going for, and they will write the content. They'll get images. They will put it in WordPress for you if you want, and basically take care of everything. In fact, they will do keyword research for you as well. If you just have like the broad topic of what you're going for, they can narrow it down and help you target exactly what you're looking for.